All right, welcome to the Work the System podcast, where we help entrepreneurs make more and work less using systems. And I'm your host, Josh Fonger. And today we have a special guest, Dan Meadors. Dan entered the Amazon marketplace in 2011. After just a few months, he saw the real potential of selling on Amazon, left his day job and to become a full-time Amazon seller, and is now the co-founder of the Wholesale Formula. Now a multi-million-dollar Amazon seller and an Amazon Marketplace master, Dan is passionate about sharing his knowledge with others who are just as driven to succeed. Together with his team of experts at the Wholesale Formula, Dan dedicates his time to teaching others how to grow and scale their own wholesale-based Amazon business. All right, very good. Well, Dan, I'm excited to dig into some details about Amazon selling. But before we do, tell us the backstory. How did you get into this line of business?
For sure, man. Back in 2011, I worked for a company that sold toys and games online. Your typical retail company. And one of the, we live in small town Kentucky. We actually talked before the show. You're very aware of my area and what it's like. So, one of the guys that worked there, the CFO of the company, came in one day and he quit. He turned in his notice, and I was like, "What is going on, man? Like, what are you doing?" Because this guy made well over six figures, and these jobs just don't grow. There's not a lot of those types of jobs in Kentucky, particularly in our area. Mm-hmm. And he was like, "Man, I'm working on Amazon part time, just selling stuff there, and I'm making more than I make here. I'm just going to dedicate to make it full time." And I was like, "Wow." So, I pictured him a little bit more, and he actually took us out and showed us. And at the time, he was doing a model called retail arbitrage, where you go into a brick and mortar store, purchase products that, either discounted or, maybe sold out in other areas or online, and marking those up and selling them. And it was almost surreal because, he's sitting there showing me this toy, and he was like, if you want to get started, just buy this one. And it was a Disney car. And it was $3 in the store. I think it was $2.87 actually at the time. I think they've raised them since then, but it's $2.87, and it was selling for $16 on Amazon. And there were like 10 right there in front of me, and I was like, there's no way people are paying $16 for this product. Like I'm literally looking at it for $3 right now, and but he was like, just try it out. He's like, this is what I do. So ultimately, we bought those Disney cars. We started our Amazon account, and literally, we sent them in. And the first day they were in there, they sold out. And we were like, whoa, this is crazy. And that's how we got our start from there. And it was just doing more retail arbitrage. And within that first 6-month period, we actually generated enough money that we were able to leave our job. And this was starting with a $600 credit card, is because, at the time, and it's kind of funny. We ended up leaving our jobs in December and not realizing that, Amazon is very, very hot in December. Like, it's not going to be this hot all year long. So, it's probably a bit of oversight. And we did jump on earlier than we probably should have, but it's that was how we did it. And that's how we got started.
That's great. So you're a risk taker, willing to jump in, and then you notice the seasonality of Amazon sales.
For sure.
Oh, cool. Well, very good. So you started in the very beginning, and I'm sure you've seen things change. So what has been the changes? So this is back in 2011 to 2019. What have been some of the big fundamental changes in the industry?
For sure. For us, we started moving towards a transition in our model based on not just Amazon changes, though it's really funny because, Amazon did change and ultimately really kind of cemented our idea, but we were already heading there. And, the great thing about retail arbitrage for us was that that effectively we were our own boss, right? Like we could go around and do basically what we wanted. But the problem is we worked so much. We were working 60, 70 hours a week. And there was no real end to that inside. It was, when we stopped working, our income went away. And we didn't have a real business. We just had really, really high paying jobs that required us to be working literally all the time. So, over the course of time, we tried a couple things and failed at those, and ultimately tried wholesale. And the first couple times that we did that, we failed too. But that's where we ultimately landed, is we landed in wholesale. But one of the big changes that actually happened was when Amazon started gating products. Like, they started requiring you to be able to submit manufacturer invoices to carry certain products. So, this was happening during that transition for us. It was like during the hot frozen period is whenever we were starting to move into wholesale. And, they started gating frozen products to where you had to show that you were either working with an authorized distributor or manufacturer to make sure your product was real, because they were having so many issues with counterfeits. And this was their initial, idea to start curbing counterfeits. So when we saw that, even though at the time the wholesale model wasn't great for us, we were just getting started with it, we realized we were definitely on the right track, that it's going to be much, much harder to do retail arbitrage in the coming years and months. And ultimately it is. I still think it's a great model and people can make money with it, but it is significantly more restrictive than it was in 2011 or 2012, 2013 era.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I've had a few clients that do Amazon, a number of them, and then a couple that do the retail arbitrage, and they still make it work. But as you're probably going to tell us, it's getting more and more competitive, and
Sure.
The margins are getting sharper, and so you have to be on your game. So, well, tell us about this wholesale formula, because now you've been doing it for so long. People come to you for training. What is the formula you use now to help people be successful?
For sure. I can tell you about that evolution too. And whenever we got started with wholesale, we did kind of the same thing everybody else did. We Googled wholesalers
Mm-hmm.
and we started, we started reaching out to people, and they send you these gigantic, massive catalogs of crap, and you just go through it and hope you find something. And if you don't, you just wasted 2 or 3 hours of your life. And then, so that wasn't successful for us. Then we went to trade shows, and we're both pretty introverted people. So it was hard for us to make those kind of connections at trade shows. And then it was, we contacted distributors and all that stuff, right? So ultimately, it kind of clicked for us one day whenever we were going through just looking at products. And it's like, I was talking to Eric, and I was like, why can't we just carry that product? It's like, why do I got to go through all these giant catalogs to see if there's something I would want to sell? I like this one. So we end up calling that company, and they were like, I asked them, hey, where can I buy your product? And they were like, well, we can sell it to you directly. And it just blew our mind. It's like, no, I could literally go find products. Everybody else in the whole world had told us, everything we had read had said, contact wholesalers, contact distributors. And this was the first time we just reached out directly to a brand. And ultimately, that was where we got started with our model. Our model is different than traditional wholesale in that, traditional wholesale, you work with distributors and you scale that way. But for us, even though we had a pretty successful business for a while, we didn't have the capital to be able to compete at that level. I can't just out order some of these giant companies and stuff like that. And in the world of distributors, that's what they care about, right? They care about volume and things like that. So our model was a bit different in that whenever we started approaching brands, they may not have a great reason to work with us outside of, we started doing something that we called adding value, right? And it's, beyond placing an order with them, it's how can I help them? How can I help their products be better on Amazon? How can I help them succeed on Amazon? Mm-hmm. And ultimately, we use that to start building our relationships, improving listings, improving, helping them get better reviews, or helping them have a better system in place to prevent receiving unnecessarily poor reviews, an optimized listing that actually explains what the product is and all those things. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, these were things that other sellers weren't doing at the time. They weren't, they were just placing orders and buying and selling products. And that's what helped us really get started inside the model.
Mm-hmm. So how do you find a winning product? Because it sounds like you just went through and found products you wanted to start selling. What is your formula for finding good products?
For sure. This has evolved over time. At first it was almost really like finding a product that we liked, right? And but over time you kind of get to see which products succeed, which products fail, and we've developed a pretty good set of criteria and simple set nonetheless, that will guide you on making good product decisions. Number one, we don't want to compete with Amazon. Like that's our number one rule is, and it's not that you can't win. It's like, there's all this, it's like, well, you can ultimately win. It's like, I don't want to win against Amazon. It's way more work to try to beat the best person in the game. Why don't you just play with normal people? Like Amazon has an advantage within the buy box where they don't share the buy box with the same regularity, which means I don't get the same equitable share of sales. Like I'll still get sales, but most of the time I have to beat them to do it, rather than just sharing sales. So that's a negative for that. We also want products that, this is going to sound super counterintuitive. We want products that are carried by more than three sellers. And this is just to help us locate those products quickly, right? It's like there's a lot of private label products on Amazon now that, where, and for those that don't know what private label is, it's where a seller will make a version of a similar version. Like, if I were selling, say, this box of Staples, I'm sure the podcast folks can't see that, but I would make my own version with my own packaging, but effectively it's the same staple, right? But there's a lot of those products, and we want products that have more than three sellers, because ultimately those products were created so they could be the retailer of their own product. Our interests don't necessarily align. And then the last thing is we want products that sell. Like I don't like introducing products to the marketplace. I don't like creating listings. I don't like doing that. I love taking a product that's already selling and making it better. And that was, I think that rule kind of came from a place of, we were very cash flow oriented. We didn't have a lot of money to just invest in products and kind of just wait for them to get good or do that. We needed to really kind of get a return on our investment quickly. And we had the skills to just make things better. So it was, for us, it was much easier to start with a winning product and just make it that much better.
So then if there's already three competitors and it's already selling at high volume, what did you do different? Like, how did you differentiate yourself?
Sure. No, and that's it. And it's, what is my real job? My real job is I've learned to see the weakness in Amazon listings, right? I've learned to see those deficiencies. So it's, they may be doing a great job, but if there are things that they're not doing, let's say, for example, their title's not utilizing enough characters, like their search terms that they're not ranking for. And, there's softwares that tell us this. Like we can just literally run a software on one of their listings. There's aren't expensive or anything. And it'll tell us, what ranks this product has for certain keywords. And it's like, if they're not ranking for a keyword, that's a big part of the demographic of their product that they're missing, right? Mm-hmm. So just being able to do something like that and say, we can include this search term. And for what it's worth, when we reach out to brands, it's like I don't generally reach out and try to be like, if you work with us, I'll show you all the wizardry. It's like our approach generally is we like to add value first. Yeah. So it's like I like to tell them, here are the changes I want to make, or I think would really help you, and here's why I would do it. If you want to work with us, I'm happy to do it. But if you don't, like, get one of your current sellers to do it, because you guys could see a real amount of growth. Mm-hmm. And it's, I feel like that approach, the adding value approach, tends to create the best partnerships. And I don't need a partnership with every vendor in the world. I just need the partnerships with right vendors who are aligned with our vision.
So do you try to pick all the products within a similar category? So all lotions or all soccer balls, or just like within a certain product category, or just any category, any size, any shape, any dollar amount?
For us, at this point in where we're at in our business, we are pretty diverse. Like I'm pretty sure we carry products in almost every major category. But like even with our students, and when we started out, I think it's best to start out in a niche where you can, it's about learning to speak that language, right? And you're going to have your best conversion and be able to have the best conversations with people whenever you guys are talking the same language. So it doesn't have to be something like, you don't have to be an auto mechanic and you're doing auto parts. It could just be something you're passionate about that you do in your free time. Like if you're an average, if you like to go hunting and you want to start in the hunting niche, it's just so you can be able to legitimately talk to people mm-hmm. and understand the products. And I feel like that's the best place to start.
So what about when you have a product that's starting to die off? So I've got a client right now, and this is just, you can give me some advice on this. So this client sells auto parts. They've been doing it for a long time, and they're starting to see sales decrease and more competition. And I think they mentioned to me that Amazon's now selling all these auto parts. So you're competing with Amazon in this case, who sells all the auto parts. what would be the advice there? Would it be to double down and differentiate, or to find an easier place because Amazon's now, you're competing with Amazon?
It's kind of awkward. I don't want to compete on the same listings as Amazon, but as far as being a retailer, Amazon's pretty terrible at it.
Okay.
Like they don't do very much optimization or anything like that. So competing with them in terms of an alternate listing, like I'm definitely fine competing with them in that arena and feel like we can just win most of the time. Like really, they probably need to dial into the search terms that they're not ranking for.
Mm-hmm.
They need to run advertising for those search terms, and I would double down more on ads, and I would double down on potentially launches. And that's just to be able to start that conversion for keywords. But if they're able to do that, like they should be able to re-rank the product pretty easily. Like we've done that with countless products where we see a lot of that potential when we start working with a brand, and it's just putting an advertising budget in, going through a couple of launches, and then fine tuning that optimization on the listing, and the products pick right back up for us.
Do you have any selling that happens outside of Amazon to diversify, instead of just selling on one marketplace, bringing the buyers to a separate site? Is that part of your strategy?
It's kind of weird, and this is one of those things where I think it's more along the lines of how you want to run your business, right? Like we have lots of students who, as part of their value that they talk to brands about, is working on multi-channel.
Mm-hmm.
And but for us, that's not a value. And I'm not saying it's wrong to have it as a value. Like if that's something you're passionate about and want to do and feel like you do very well, like by all means, it is, at that level, it is a value for the person you're working with. But for us, it's not something we're passionate about. Mm-hmm. And we've chosen to double down on Amazon, because originally we were trying to do more multi-channel, and we realized that the multi-channel for us was, it was almost the same amount of work. In terms of how many hours we were putting into it. And it was approximately 4.5% of our sales at the time. And it's like, all right, so I'm doing, about 50% of the work for 4.5% of the sales. At this point, I feel like I could just comfortably double down on Amazon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's good. I mean, diversifying yourself too much, you kind of lose some of your strength, and that's good to at least pick your lane, which I think is good advice for any entrepreneur. So what have been some of the biggest learning experiences for you over the last 10 years as an entrepreneur? Because a lot of people who are not online business owners, they're still in the same space and they're trying to grow their businesses. What have you learned? Because I see that you used to work, you said 60, 70, 80 hours a week. Now it's much less than that. What's happened? What's changed?
Yeah, I mean, within our Amazon business, it's kind of crazy, over the last few years. In that business, I'm saying pretty optimistically that we work an hour a week in that business. And that's mostly just going to, the Tuesday meeting and seeing what's on tap for everybody and stuff like that. It really is. And that's it. That's the biggest thing I've honestly learned is the power of outsourcing and automation. Mm-hmm. Like I said, whenever we first started with Amazon, it wasn't that we weren't making money. We were making tons of money, but I hated it because there was nothing I could, I didn't get to go enjoy that money with my kids. I didn't get to, it wasn't freedom. I wasn't buying freedom. All I was doing was building, a pile of cash. And, that while that's, a safety net, that's not how you want to live, right? Like people want freedom in their lives. They want to be able to enjoy. And that's part of the reason that sold me on getting into business is that, I wanted to have that freedom. I want to be able to spend time with my kids. I want to be able to go on vacation when I wanted. And I just wasn't getting that, even though by other metrics, I was doing pretty well. Mm-hmm. So for us, and a lot of that was just being able to let go. Right. I think that's a lot of the problem that people have with outsourcing and starting down that path is, they know how they work. They know the finished product that they produce, and they're terrified of the product that other people will produce. And that was definitely true for us. But I remember that when we pushed ourselves and we hired that first employee, rather than do work, I think, I didn't have a clue on the right way to train an employee. But what I wanted to do is, we brought on 2 guys for very specific tasks. And I told Eric, it's like, at the end of when I feel like I have this person trained, I want to never have to be able to do those tasks again. I want them to just be better at those than me. So like the first, 6 weeks that we had Matt, Like I literally just worked with Matt all day long until we were speaking the same language, right? Mm-hmm. And then slowly and surely, I was able to pull out of that job. And ultimately, you know what happened to our business during this period? Like that was the year we went from 1.2 million in sales to 3.6 million.
It's a big jump.
And it was, that was hiring 2 people and just being able to increase the amount of coverage that we were getting in those areas. It's like, you can only do so much as the business owner. But then and there's another lesson in here, and that's where I'm headed with this is, so we built a really cool business there, and eventually Matt went on to do, he went on to another job, and that's where our business started to fail, because instead of having a system, we had a very, very trained person. Like, so it's actually funny when we lost Matt, like our business tanked for a while, and it was because we were retraining, and it's funny because when you start pulling away from a process like that, it's hard to relearn it, right? Like I had to relearn it so I could reteach it, which that there was that learning curve, and our business was suffering the whole time, and that was one of the biggest changes we've made in the past 2 years, is we've become incredibly process oriented and systems based.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. So now that's a great lesson too, by the way. It's like you're trying to sell books for us. So now you document your procedures, and are the majority of your team, are they employees or are they contractors, or how are you building out your team now?
Yep. We have 2 employees internally, and we have 2 virtual assistants that run our entire Amazon business.
Wow. So it doesn't take much.
Nope, it doesn't take a lot, and that's the power of systems, right? It's as far as being able to scout for products and look for leads. Like we have a system for that, and our virtual assistants are able to produce more leads for us than we could literally ever use. So it's about finding the right leads, and then once we realize that, it's like now that we can find leads, we started just developing criteria to find better leads and better leads. With that really just got us enough business to keep growing and systemizing the rest of our business. I think whenever you're doing it, the first thing you do have to automate is traffic generation or leads, particularly in a business like this, because that's your lifeblood.
Okay, so that was the first thing. As long as you have leads coming in, you knew you could do something with them.
Right.
So what do you do now? And this is something I've been exploring with a lot of owners of companies. So you used to be doing the work. Now that you're not doing all the day-to-day work, what do you as an owner do with your time? Like, what is important for your business as an owner now?
No, it's more of the overview, right? It's like the time I spend in my business is not working. It's coaching, and it's the same thing. It's like we've kind of been really fortunate in that we developed the training course from our business, and like what our training course is it's no frills, it's no pomp, it's literally just what we do in our business every single day, and I think that's why we've had so much success with it. Is it's not a bunch of theory, but even in that business, right? Like we've kind of incorporated our Amazon team into that, right? Like our employees participate in that course. They're always in there answering questions. They're always in there. So it creates that additional feedback, like beyond the feedback that we're giving them, they're getting feedback from 3,500 people that are doing this. So it's, that's the part of the business that we focus on now is the training side, like our personal efforts.
So I get this question often, especially with online companies and Amazon, my Amazon clients. If you train your team, they always say this, they say, well, if I train my team and I give them procedures, won't they just go off and compete against me or start their own company? Has that been a fear of yours, or how have you mitigated that risk?
God, I hope so. Like that's, at some point, if that's what they want, by all means, like I'm not making them indentured servants. Like I don't need them for life. I don't need them. I want them to be with us as long as they're happy, and I want to train them to be better than me. And if that's the ultimate decision they make, I realize that there's a lot out there. Like, I literally train people how to do this for a living, and my business has grown every year. Like, like I said, we have 3,500 students, and our business continues to grow. And that's just because, there's a lot out there in the Amazon pool. And if you're doing it right, like, I don't work with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of vendors. I work with like 15 or 20 now. And it's, we just work really closely. We develop great relationships, and over time those turn into exclusives, and we're the only people selling those products now. And it's just because of the relationships we built and the value we've delivered over time. So it's like, from that perspective, originally, if they would have done that, it would have been heartbreaking, right? Like if I would have had an employee leave me, it would have just been crushing. And it's because I lost all that training. I lost all all those things. But now, we do have systems behind us. Like if they, my job's to keep my employees happy. But if they ever do want to leave, like I can train people and have them back up to speed in a matter of, weeks, as opposed to months or over a year in some cases. So it's, the people that worry about that is, that I would tell them to focus on systems, and, and instead of worrying, just make your employees the best they can be.
I like that retention model better. Make them happy, coach them, teach them, and then they won't want to leave anyways. And I tell entrepreneurs this all the time, and maybe you agree or disagree, but most people don't want to be an entrepreneur. They don't want the stress. They don't want the responsibility. They don't even think that way. Just that whole lifestyle has zero interest in them. Most people they want to work for a place that they respect, that they like, they know what to do, they can be successful, make enough income, and they're totally content with that. And
it's funny because I just literally, I'm not even kidding, I literally just had that same discussion at lunch, and I with one of my buddies locally here who owns a couple businesses. And he was talking about it, and he said somebody had asked him, is it more stressful to be an employee or an employer? And he was like, employer, not close. Like, as an employee, I can go be pretty average at my job and probably never get fired. Like if I want to be great and grow within the job and stuff like that, like I have that opportunity. But, on my bad days, I can just be average, and that's okay. Like being, as a business owner, you can't really take your eye off the ball. Like you're always, there's always moving parts, and it's not just me anymore, right? And it's like, if I did something wrong and it only impacts me, that is a problem. But it's on me to find that solution. But if I do something wrong and it impacts my employees like extremely negatively, let's say I did something and it made us go out of business, like that would be horrible for them, and that's horrible for their families. So it's like, as an employer, I just have a lot more obligation, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, it forces you to grow up and be a leader. That's for sure. Well, I got, this brings me to an interesting question. So what are you afraid of most, or maybe not afraid of it, but what is the biggest thing that people are not thinking about, but they should be? If you could look 10 years into the future, as an online business owner, is there anything that makes you concerned or worried about that people should keep their eye on?
No, I mean, it's like to be adaptive, right? Like it is going to change, and it's going to change very fast. Like if you look at, if you just look at the rate of change in technology in general in the past 10 years versus the past 100, like we've vastly surpassed it. And it's like, you got to look at the online marketplace for what it is. Like it is maturing, but it's still in its absolute infancy. So it's, as far as that, it's just be adaptable and be quick to be able to position yourself. And particularly within the Amazon arena, Amazon literally changes all the time. Like they have changes that happen all the time, and being able to navigate those changes and have a little resilience is key to success.
Okay. So be adaptable, maybe have a little cushion in case things change dramatically, unexpected things. Well, that's great. Well, so what's one thing you want to leave the audience with that I didn't ask you a question about, but you think would be important for our audience to hear about?
No, it's I think for us, right? Like, success always starts at it really just taking action. Like you have to do things that put you in an uncomfortable position, because that's the place that most people don't go. And that's why success starts there, right? You have to be willing to do the things that other people won't do, even if it's not comfortable.
Great advice. So start with facing your fears. And that's true. That's a differentiator right there. Most people aren't willing to do that. If you are, that already sets you apart in a dramatic way. Well, great. Well, Dan, this has been very helpful. Where can people find you if they want more information?
For sure. You can check out our website at thewholesaleformula.com, or on Facebook. We have a Facebook page that's Facebook.com/the Wholesale Formula.
All right. Well, very good. Well, Dan, thanks again for sharing your wisdom, sharing your time with us today, and teaching us all about how to be better on Amazon and be better entrepreneurs and leaders. I love what you had to say about systemization. That certainly speaks to what I preach as well. And everybody, if you're tuned in today to the podcast, make sure to check us out next week, where I'll be sharing with you another business expert or a client of mine sharing how they have systemized their business and grown. Hopefully you can learn from them as well. And also I wanted to mention that we are giving away a free copy of Sam Carpenter's best-selling book, Work the System. It's right there behind me in the back shelf. And hopefully I can get him to sign it as well. But anyways, we're going to be sending one of those to people who give reviews to us. So if you do a review on Facebook or Instagram, YouTube, basically anywhere you're watching this or looking at this, leave us a review and then send us an email at info@workthesystem.com and let us know. And we'll be picking out one person a week and mailing them a copy of the book, Work the System. All right, everybody. Dan, thanks again. And I will see you all next week.